Well, here's a monster. This one took me a while, especially considering how busy I am. Took me about 2 months to complete this one. Usually I can get through books pretty quick, but I had to keep putting it down. But, nonetheless, Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. I am just astounded on when this was written and how much we are seeing some of the very things that are narrated in this book. It's just amazing. And there's a lot that's involved in this book. I mean, it solely revolves around objectivism. Objectivism is the pursuit of one's happiness and to replace self-sacrifice for individualism, basically. And in that also it explores egoism. So in that sense, on a Christian sense, I definitely, if you even have any type of biblical worldview, I don't know where all my subscribers hail from. I know a good majority of them are Christians, or they believe in God. So there's a lot of very non-Christian principles in here. In fact, it's pretty contrary. You know, you don't sacrifice yourself for anyone, for the most part, in a lot of what the characters do. But as long as you show that you try to produce in the capacity that you can, then there is sometimes leniency that would be granted to that type of individual. Basically, the book follows this mystery phrase, "Who is John Galt?" And it's something that everyone uses as a way of just explaining the unexplainable. Like where something seems hopeless, then people will just say, "Well, who is John Galt?" And that's kind of where that phrase, and then you explore through the book to find out who John Galt is. It is a meaty book. I mean, I just keep sitting back after reading this and looking at what's going on in the world and how people expect something for nothing, and it's crazy that this is written so long ago. But it was written by a woman who she's kind of a self-proclaimed philosopher, although nowadays she has a huge following. And she came from communism herself, and she loved the ideals of what the U.S. stood for about entrepreneurship, and it rewarded the people who put forth effort and risk and put their minds to a goal that inevitably, because of their brilliance, would bleed off to the benefit of many other people. And she saw the problems with socialism and the socialist communist way of thought that was creeping into the United States from the very place that she escaped from, the USSR. So it's pretty amazing book, and I highly recommend it. Anybody who's a prepper, I mean, you could still read it and keep your biblical worldview and not be tainted, a lot of people, like, I've had a couple of friends of mine who are, they're like, "Oh, how could you read that? The characters are terrible people," and you don't see, I look at the whole premise to the commentary of answering the whole problem of people expecting just because all according to his need. There's a certain limit to that you have to kind of gauge how much is enough charity type of thing. That's a hard thing to do without coming across as a piece of garbage, or an unfeeling, uncaring person. But there is such thing as tough love too. So but anyway, that's pretty much it. Let me open up. There's the only problem with this book that I found was like one particular speech of one individual went on for chapters upon chapters, and it was brutal. Very long-winded, and part of the whole point was the author was trying to sum up every philosophy that she believes in, that this whole book kind of wraps within itself, this whole philosophy, and she basically regurgitates everything that's on her mind through this character, and it's brutal and long. I mean, it was good, but I even found myself kind of looking ahead and going, are you done yet? and in that scenario, those who have read the book, I mean, if I was in that scenario, I would have shut my TV off. If anybody who's read it knows what I'm talking about. But I'll read this excerpt. I wanted to make a video just on this whole speech alone. This was the best part of the book, by far. My favorite part of the book, and I'll read you an excerpt from it. When you accept money in payment for your effort, you do so only on the conviction that you will exchange it for the product of the effort of others. It is not the moochers or the looters who give value to money. Not an ocean of tears, nor all the guns in the world can transform those pieces of paper in your wallet into bread you will need to survive tomorrow. Those pieces of paper, which should have been gold, are a token of honor, your claim upon the energy of the men who produce. Your wallet is your statement of hope that somewhere in the world around you there are men who will not default on the moral principle which is the root of money. Is this what you consider evil? Have you ever looked for the root of production? Take a look at an electric generator and dare tell yourself that it was created by a muscular effort of unthinking brutes. Try to grow a seed of wheat without the knowledge left to you by men who had to discover it for the first time. Try to obtain your food by means of nothing but physical motions, and you'll learn that man's mind is the root of all the goods produced and all the wealth that has ever existed on earth. But you say that money is made by the strong at the expense of the weak? What strength do you mean? It is not the strength of guns or muscles. Wealth is the product of man's capacity to think. Then his money, made by the man who invents a motor at the expense of those who did not invent it? Is money made by the intelligent at the expense of the fools? By the able at the expense of the incompetent? By the ambitious at the expense of the lazy? Money is made, before it can be looted or mooched, made by the effort of every honest man, which to the extent of his ability. An honest man is one who knows that he can't consume more than he has produced. Awesome. And of course, you see the flaws if you're a Christian, you know, God is the source of all things, but still, the basic ideology behind this, that you shouldn't expect something for nothing and vilify those who actually put out the risks and make things, like a Steve Jobs, let's say. He innovated that company and came up with these ideas. You don't vilify that person because you're jealous of how much they end up making off of that good idea, and that you should get a piece of that. It's just a really, you know, and they talk about the moochers and looters. Well, the moochers are people who just sit and expect, and the looters are the legislators, the people in power who write laws in the guise to help and be, you know, to help kind of be the guiders of welfare, and they'll take from the people who have made to give to the moochers, so it levels everything and makes it fair for everyone. Sound familiar? So enjoy. I highly, highly recommend this one. And like I said, if you're a Christian, you know, just kind of forego. You know the truths that guide your life, so this shouldn't follow you. In fact, it will just enlighten kind of the ways of thoughts of some people that expect something for nothing.